Let me just start out by saying this video is gonna be the hardest video for me to make. Because this one is the story of my life. So it's gonna be heavy. And not gonna lie, it might be emotional for me. Might end up crying making this video, but it needs to be said. So I'm just gonna go ahead and say it. Well, start with, I was born June 22nd, 1995 in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. At 3 months old, my birth mother's parental rights were terminated for me. And at the age of 5, my foster family that I had been with since I was 3 months old adopted me. My childhood had a lot of ups and downs. Everybody that knows me knows that I was a mama's boy growing up. I was always hanging around my mom, always doing stuff with her. And a lot of this stuff people just saw from the outside. But my family, they know. I wasn't the best son in the world. I was a very bad son, if I'm being honest. Used to steal stuff, a lot. Steal money, steal anything, steal food, whatever it is, I would steal it a lot. It was a problem that I had when I was younger, a lot. And my mom and I had a lot of arguments over that. And yeah, I had a serious issue with that. It was bad. I estimate around, 9 years old, my dad had a stroke. My parents were older. My adopted parents were older, and my dad was, I believe, 81. He had a stroke, and his health declined from there. And at the age of 85, when I was 13 and a half, he passed away. Due to a heart attack in the hospital. It was rough. I was in therapy all my life as a child. Oh my gosh. My dad's death hit me harder than I let anybody see. My dad and I were close before he had a stroke. It was rough. Watching him go through that all those years. And then when my mom and I were about to move in 2008, believe in like October of 2008, my mom and we moved him back into the house so that he could, because he was going from nursing home to nursing home, whatever. And we ended up moving him back into the house at the end so that he could, because my dad and my mom, they built that house when they first got married. So my dad built that house for my mom. So since we were selling it, we wanted to take care of him and let him be in the house before we sold it, so he could say goodbye as well as us. And my mom and I were taking care of him, changing his diapers, doing all that stuff I was doing all that stuff when I was 13 with my mom. That really hit me that my dad was, it's an end of life time. And there's one thing that, even though I have a bad memory from being autistic, if there's one thing I'll never forget, it's the moment that my dad, thanked my mom and I in the only way he could. He had his hands on the table and we were at dinner and we were feeding him and stuff, and my dad couldn't just pick up his hand and move it. The only thing he could do is inch it on the table. And I just remember my mom and I sitting there, and we each had a hand on the table, and my dad, he just looked at the two of us, and then he started inching his hands towards us. My mom and I didn't know what he was doing, so we just left our hand there to see what he was doing. Our hands there, and he just went and inched it all the way to our hands, and then lifted his hand just enough to put it over our hands, and then looked at the two of us. It was his way of saying thank you for taking care of me. Man. Yeah, that was a very emotional moment for me. And I was growing up as a kid, I was never an emotional person. Because I just didn't really see that emotion with my parents, from my parents, so of course I wasn't an emotional kid. I'd always say, oh, I don't have any emotions. But yeah, that moment really messed me up, being 13 and seeing my dad do that. In that moment, I think my mind was starting to wrap around the fact that he might be gone soon. But the moment I came home from school the one day and my mom told me that my dad had passed away, that really made me emotional. Really messed me up, made me act out in school a little bit, and my mom, she decided to put me in this she put me in this mental, this behavioral hospital where they deal with kids with behavior issues and stuff, and really taught me just how to keep going, and how to use my words and not act out. When I felt an emotion. Yeah, it was rough. But those next 13 years were, I had some good times with my mom. I had fights with her, obviously, because she's my mom, you know. She always wanted the best for me, and I just kept messing up. When I became an adult, I just kept going from job to job to job, and I think that really bothered her. But the thing that really messed me up was probably the beginning of the end for my mom. I don't know exact dates of things, but I'm estimating, I believe, my mom and I went to, I went with my mom to a doctor's appointment. I believe the beginning, like maybe February of 2020 or February of 2019, whenever it was. And then they did CAT scans and all this stuff to make sure she was doing okay. And they said, yep, everything came back clear, you're all good. And and then I believe in June or July of 2019, my sister, who had been staying at the house for a little bit to just kind of watch over my mom, because she was older. She was, at the time, I believe 93 or 92, somewhere around there. She might have been 93, I believe. And my sister was supposed to go shopping with my mom. They're supposed to go thrift shopping, which is something that my mom loved to do. And so I was in my room playing some video games and stuff, and just doing what I like to do, hanging out with my dog and hanging out with our two dogs, and just playing video games in my room. And my one sister that was staying with us comes screaming out, Devon, Devon, Devon. And she's like on the phone with 911, and she calls me, and she goes, go look at mom. And so I go into my mom's room. She wasn't in there, so I went into the bathroom, and she was sitting on the toilet just staring at the ground, at the floor. And I was like, Mom, what are you doing? Are you okay? And she didn't answer, and there was like snot coming out of her nose, and I didn't know what was going on. I was like, what the heck? I mean, I know some things, some like warning signs of strokes and stuff, because my mom was a nurse practitioner, so she'd always taught me like warning signs of like strokes and stuff, and seizures. Seizures I didn't really know much about, because I had never seen anybody in person that had a seizure, so I didn't know what that was. I mean, I had seen like videos of like people having seizures, so I usually correlated it with like they're like shaking their bodies, like But my mom's body wasn't shaking or anything. It wasn't moving at all. She was just staring straight at the floor, and I was kind of freaked out. And then I tried to move her off the toilet, and she wouldn't move. And I was like, okay, I weigh more than my mom. Like, I'm strong, and I couldn't move her. She was dead weight. So my sister and I together moved her and put her on the floor. And she woke up instantly, and she was like, no, I'm fine. My mom, anytime anything's ever happened and she had to go to the hospital, she'd always fight us. She ain't never wanted to go to the hospital. So that was normal for her to fight to not go to the hospital. But honestly, her going to the hospital was probably the best thing in the world, because we found out that she had a brain tumor, and she done radiation therapy and it shrunk that tumor away. And then so they found a second tumor. So they did another CAT scan after they had found out that the radiation had killed the one. And then the second tumor was stage 4 terminal cancer. It was rough for me, having lived with her for 26 years at that time. It was rough. She was my best friend. She when she died, it really messed me up. Yeah, it really made me not. Is the worst I've ever felt in my life. I mean, I wasn't I wasn't the best son, and I tried so hard to be there for her at the end, but I just, for me, it was hard to be there watching it happen. Losing one parent in a hard way, like watching them die over years, for a few years, which is what I did with my dad, going back and forth to nursing homes and everything to see him and visit him and stuff. It was rough. But the thing is, with my dad's death, I had my mom there to kind of help me get through it. Like, you can have family members be there for you, like siblings and stuff, but it's not the same thing as having your parent there to help you get through it. Because even though my siblings were all older than me, it's not the same thing as having that mother's love to help you get through it. So losing my mom was harder because it's not like I had another parent to lean on. I did, and then shortly after that, I moved into my own place, and that is where my life took a dark turn. Yeah. It was probably the worst thing I ever did was moving into that apartment. It's where I had been. So I became a firefighter when I was like 16 or 17 years old, a volunteer firefighter up where I used to live. And I loved doing the firefighting. I did it for a decade of my life. I was a volunteer firefighter. And that was, when I moved into that place, it was towards the end of it was within the last year of me being a firefighter. So it was within year 9 to 10. And all those years I loved being a firefighter. It was so joyous. But that last year of me living in Pittsburgh area was the worst year of my life. I did not care about anything that I used to care about. That year was a rough year for our family. I lost 2 aunts to old age. They were both over 100. Lost my mom to brain cancer. She was 95. And a friend of mine that I went to church with all the time, that I grew up with in the church. We didn't go to school together, but he was sort of like me. We were both adopted. All the other kids we were in that church group with, they were all with their biological parents. He and I were the only 2 adopted kids in that group. So, he and I, we were raised by adopted parents, so we had that in common. We liked a lot of the same things. He was kind of like a wild child, sort of like me. And we had fun. We did so many crazy things in our church group together. And we had fun growing up. And he and I, we did this summer camp together where we were behind the scenes people with our youth leader. We helped with setting up things and doing stuff for this summer camp at our church called Summer Celebration, and they did it every summer for the kids. It was 1 week, and it was like a day camp type of thing for a week, and you just had fun. And he and I was setting everything up with our youth pastor. So the last couple of years of his life, I hadn't really talked to him that much, just sporadically. And then out of the blue, in the midst of the worst year of my life, he had committed suicide. And that just made the year 2021 even worse for me. Because, for one, I didn't know he was suffering from anything. He'd never said anything to us, and he was like the happy child, so it just made no sense to me. Yeah, it really messed me up. It was like I had two aunts who died, and then he died, and then the day my mom, 2 days before my mom passed away, I'd went to go see her. I'd went to go see her with my family. She was in a end-of-life facility, and hung out with her for a while. Took a couple of photos with her. Then the last thing I said to her was, "I'll come back and visit you soon, Mom." And said, "I love you. Goodbye." And then 2 days later, my family was going to visit her again. And as much as I wanted to go see her again, I couldn't because I was working. And while I was at work, my sister said, my one sister had texted me, because she and my one sister weren't really talking, so she had texted me to tell my one sister that my mom was making a weird sound and that the doctor said it was like the death. He said that the doctor had said that it was the death rattle. And then 2 minutes later, she texted me again and said, "Mom just died." Then, I had to walk outside. At that time, I was working security at a hospital, the hospital in my hometown. I had to take a moment and go outside, and ended up calling my one sister, and we talked for a little bit. That moment changed my life forever. So fast forward to me living in that 1-bedroom apartment in Pittsburgh. I'm just gonna forewarn you, this next part gets a little dark. It's not really something I like talking about, but I need to get it off my chest. Living in that apartment, it's when I really, really got into streaming. And on the streams, I was always looking so happy, and they went long. The streams went usually around 2 or 3 hours, and then after I would get done with the streams, I usually would go into a dark, very dark place. Started drinking a lot of Mountain Dew. Had a lot of thoughts, bad thoughts, negative thoughts, and suicidal thoughts. They got bad at some points to where I actually attempted suicide 20 times in that apartment. Tried overdosing. I tried drowning myself. Even tried hanging myself one time. It's it's hard. It just 2021 scarred me in more ways than I could count. For me, it was hard enough being gay, and hiding that from everybody around me. But the hardest thing for me is the fact that I never told my mom about that before I died, or before she died, I mean. It's hard. She was my best friend. She was my everything, and her death just hurt really, really bad. I'm pretty good now. I've also learned, if I need help, to just ask for it. I still see her every day. Because I have photos of her in my apartment, so I see her every day, and I just thank God for the time that I had with her. Then I had, for a while after my mom passed away, I couldn't even go to church or anything. It was like probably 6 months. For like 6 months after she passed away, I could not even bring myself to go to church. But especially not the church that I grew up in, because that is the church that she and I went to all the time. So it was rough for a while. I really hated it when people would say, "I'm sorry for your loss. She lived a great life. She loved you so much." Like, I hated it, bro. And I also hated people asking me how I was doing. Because for me, I was like, how do you think I'm doing? Obviously not doing okay. Like, my mom died. Like, how would I be okay? Like, it was rough for a while. But fast forward to 2022, July of 2022, my sister and I had been talking for a while, and then I had made the decision to move to Florida, which I've enjoyed living here. And then when my sister and I moved out, and I moved into this apartment, I started doing things I always promised my mom I would never do. Started drinking a lot of alcohol. Started getting absolutely drunk. A lot. I drank a lot over the last couple of years. And started also smoking weed. None of which I'm proud of. I just need to say it because it's the truth, and I need to say the truth. Started smoking weed a lot, drinking a lot of alcohol, and started vaping as well. And before I left my job at Wendy's as a manager, before I got fired, I had stopped drinking for 2 months. Had stopped smoking weed for like 4 months at that time. And yeah, I had made those decisions to stop doing those things. And then some stuff went down on one of my shifts, and it was a really bad shift, and the store ended up launching an investigation into some allegations that some girl had made against one of my employees, that one of my employees had made against another employee. And they ended up looking at the cameras, and noticed that the back door was open, and so they fired me. Terminated me for that. And a couple days later, I ended up going out with some people and got probably the most drunk I'd ever gotten in my life, and got the most high I ever got in my life too. When I was drinking and smoking weed, I often did it together. It was bad. But I don't, I made, and that was last month, so I made a conscious decision once, the following day after, I got the most drunk and the most, high I'd ever been. I had a interview, and I had to go to that interview it was scheduled towards the end of my hangover, so I was coming off a hangover, and then that next day I made the conscious decision to stop drinking, stop smoking, because this year I have the New Year's resolution of just being way better than I've been in the last couple of years, and to just move forward, get back into shape, and just move forward with my life, doing way better than I have been. I have things that I want to learn this year, things that I want to get better at this year, and things that I want that will impact my future way better than I have been the last couple of years. The last couple of years have been, I guess me, like, yes, I'm 30 now, and yes, I started doing that stuff when I was 29, but after doing those things the last couple of years, I realized why it was probably better that I didn't do it when I was younger. Because if I would have done it when I was younger, because of how stupid I was when I was in my early 20s and when I was 19, and I was doing these stupid things. I wasn't drinking or any of that stuff, but I was just being a stupid young kid. It probably would have been way worse than it is now, because I did it now and I'm older and a little more mature, and guess in my mind it was me trying to see what those things are like. But now that I've had them, and I've had the hangovers, and I've had the being high and stuff, I realize I don't want to do that stuff. And I also know that I have an addictive gene, because my birth mom and my birth father were drunks and alcoholics and drug addicts. So for me, making the decision to be better, to make better decisions, to not be stupid, and do things that can make my life worse than what it is. I'm starting to learn how to make healthier decisions. And honestly, since I stopped doing that stuff and started eating better things, my body feels better. And I like it the way that my body feels right now. And I'm starting to see the impact that making these decisions, these better decisions, is making on my body. When I go and I look at the scale and the scale says I'm way less than what I was. Because when I was doing all this stuff, I was like 205 pounds. And at my height, being 5'4", I shouldn't be anywhere near 500 or 200 pounds. It's 205. Now I'm at 185. And so it's kind of like amazing to me that I'm 20 pounds lighter and my body feels better, and I like this, the way I am now, better than I did when I was doing all these things. Making better decisions, and my mind is more clear. Doesn't feel as foggy. And if I'm being honest, me being fired from Wendy's is probably a blessing in disguise for me, because the things that I was doing were not good anyways. And I also feel like the stress of the job of being a boss was getting to me. It's the first time I had ever been put in a situation where I was a boss, and it did not go very well. I also never got fully trained as a manager. I had 3 days worth of training to be a manager. So it's supposed to be 6 months worth of training, and it was 3 days. So I didn't have the skill and the knowledge that I needed to be a good boss. And so it was not good for me. I've had a lot of ups and downs in my life. My life hasn't been the best, but it hasn't been the worst. I'm a big believer in everything in life happens for a reason. There's a reason everything in your life has happened. And you may not know the reason why. God may not show you the reason why. But He doesn't promise to give us answers to all the questions we have, but he promises to walk with us through our lives and walk us through every situation with him by our side. So, with that being said, I don't regret anything that has happened in my life, nor would I change anything that happened in my life, because everything that has happened in my life has led me to who I am right now. Who I am as a grown 30-year-old man. And it is what it is, and I just hope that whoever watches this that they can learn stuff, and hope that it helps somebody maybe not go down the same paths that I've gone down. There's a lot of decisions that I've made in my life that weren't good. Unfortunately, I made them, and it is what it is. I can't take them back. I don't regret them because, like I said, they did make me who I am. Are there different paths where I probably should have taken that path instead of that path? Yeah, probably. But it is what it is, and I wouldn't change it. So yeah, it's a story of me, Devon Harris, and yeah, it's gonna do it for me. This is Devon Harris, aka Pretty Boy August, and we out. Peace.